name's Lisa Norton.
And I'm Lora Zmak, and we're the Material Girlfriends.
Today we have a beginner tutorial for you. It is on foundation paper piecing.
So it is for this lovely pattern, which is called 3-yard Sierra. You need 1 yard of light, 1 yard of medium, and 1 yard of dark, and you're ready to roll.
And you can visit the link in below and you can download your paper piecing unit.
Be sure to like and subscribe.
It's a beginner paper piece unit, and that is going to be this right here. So you're going to make copies of the template or in your pattern. I like to use the newsprint or Carol Doakes foundation paper. And then the first thing you're going to do is, once you make your copies, make sure it was copied at 100% size. You're going to flip it over and you're just going to roughly draw the lines on the back side. The lines are going to help you position your squares. Now your fabric choice, I'm using this cute batik, and I have a light block and I also have a dark block. The dark block is in these colors here. So my samples that I'm going to show you today is going to be using the dark block. But let's say you want to use something besides batiks or solids. You want to use something like this. Isn't that going to be a pretty Christmas tree? So you would cut your background units 5.5 by, or no, 5 by 8. And you're going to need 2 if your fabric is one-sided. Now, a nice quality batik, if you won't be able to tell which side is which, so you don't need to worry about cutting your squares in opposite directions. So you're going to have your tree fabric, and you're just going to have a nice large square. And then your rectangles, you're going to need to cut 1 rectangle on the diagonal from top right to bottom left, and your other rectangle you're going to be cutting from top left to bottom right. And the reason you're going to do it this way is so that we can have the, I'm going to rotate this, we can have the triangles on both sides of the tree. Now you'll see we've got 1 for one side of the tree, but see, this one wouldn't work. And so we're going to have to use the other rectangle from the other cut. Now, if your fabric wasn't directional, see, my words are directional, I would be able to use this for another tree, but since my words are directional, my words would be upside down. So if you'd want to cut too many extra squares, choose a fabric in your background that's not directional, or a batik, because a batik, when you cut your triangles, it's not going to matter. You can see there's no right side or left side, so it's easy just to go ahead and use either side of the batik. Once your fabrics are cut, you have your triangles ready and your tree square ready. You've already traced your lines on the back side. You're going to first start off by positioning your tree. Now you're going to just center your square right on the making sure that it extends past that outside line. And now you're just going to pin it in place. Now the next thing you're going to sew on is one of these triangles. But how in the world you're going to figure out how that works? So this is my tip. I like to pre-cut my 1/4 inch seam. So we're going to flip it over, and you're going to use a postcard. You're going to put it on the line between 1 and 2. Fold that paper back, Now you can use a regular ruler, and you would lay that regular ruler down. You're going to measure, you know, 1/4 of an inch from that folded edge of the paper, and then you would cut it off. Or you can use an add 1/4 ruler. The add 1/4 rulers are really nice. They have this lip, and so it catches that postcard just like that, nice and firm. And now we've just trimmed our tree portion away, and we have 1/4 of an inch from where our seam line is going to be. We're going to flip it back over. We're going to get one of our triangles for this outer corner, and it's going to position just like this, but we're going to sew right sides together. But with the batik, it doesn't really matter. Now, when I position it, the skinnier angle of the triangle, I like to have about 1 inch from this corner. I have found that leaving more at the top allows better coverage up in this outside corner here. So now I'm going to pin this fabric in place. And then we're going to flip it back over. And we're going to take it to our sewing machine, and we're going to sew on the line between 1 and 2. When you set up your sewing machine, I like using this open toe foot. It helps you see the line a little easier and makes it easier to follow. So when you sew on the line, you're going to put your needle right down at that corner. And then you're going to set your machine to do a stay stitch if it does. If not, just hold your paper and let it do a double stitch right in the beginning. I like to use a smaller stitch length. And we're going to just sew on the paper. Until we get to the corner. Then I'll do another little stay stitch. So now we can take our pins out. And then we're going to check to make sure that this piece of fabric extends beyond our drawn line. I like to give mine a nice little quick press with the iron. And then we'll go ahead and pre-trim that side. When you pre-trim this edge, just remember we're going to flip it over. Get yourself a postcard. Put it on the line between 1 and 3. Fold that paper back. Use either a ruler or a 1/4 inch seam ruler. And then you're just going to cut. Or it's actually just pre-cutting your 1/4 inch seam. And we're going to flip it over. And we'll position our next triangle. That's going to look nice. So we go right sides together. And I usually extend it about 1 inch from the bottom corner, leaving a little bit more at the top. I'm going to put a couple pins in it and not too close to my seam line. All right, now we're going to just flip it over and we'll take it back to the sewing machine. Okay, I've got that sewn. I can take out my pins. I'm going to check to make sure that my fabric extends past that drawn line. That looks great. Okay, I'm going to give it a quick press with the iron. And now I'm going to trim it. So this tree needs to be 6.5 inches, and I happen to have my 6.5 inch square. It makes it a little easier for trimming. You can just use a ruler and cut on the dotted line. But I find that a lot of times our copies, even though it says it's 100%, size, it's not always exactly 100% size. So if you have the same size square that you're needing, having a square to trim it makes it that much more accurate. All right, our tree is looking really nice. Next is to tear off the paper. I tear right to the middle of a seam and then tear this direction. This way it doesn't stress the outside corner so that it doesn't come unraveled. There, now it's ready to sew on the rectangles. There, that's looking really good. So the next thing we need to do is just sew on our frame and our stump. So we're going to sew on a 1.5 by 6.5 rectangle on each side. And when those are sewn on, we can sew on our stump piece and then our 8.5 by 1.5 inch top, and it'll be all completed.
Thank you for joining us today, and be sure you like and subscribe. Thanks.